Good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend Rick. You've heard of Reverend Ike. I'm Reverend Rick. Thanks to the praise and worship singers. Thank you, Curtis. I always think Barry White is going to show up. And those of you who know what that is, as old as I am. This morning's title is Don't Fear Greatness. It's just the abundant life. The Prison of Your Own Mind was the title of a talk given by Sean Stephenson at Ironwood State Prison, and it was shared on TED. No, I was not an inmate when I heard this. Ironwood State Prison is located between Los Angeles and Phoenix. Sean was born with a genetic disorder called osteogenesis imperfecta. And if you cannot say osteogenesis imperfecta, just call it brittle bone disease. Almost every bone in his body was broken during his birth. He lived in a wheelchair, and he required complete care. Someone else had to provide for all his needs. But the question is this: does limitation limit greatness? Can everyone have the abundant life? You know, the abundant life, which is an existence that exceeds our expectation. Eyes have not seen and ears have not heard, and it's not even entered into the minds of people all the goodness that God has for us. Can you have an abundant life? A life that exceeds expectation. In all aspects of life, your family, in your health, in your work, and most importantly, in your attitude. Abundant life is more than enough. It is a spirit-led life. And if anyone needed a miracle, it was Sean. He was born with significant abnormalities, and the doctors didn't think that he would live one day. But this was just what they thought, not what happened. Our spiritual principle says this, that we are spiritual beings living in a spiritual universe, having a human experience. And if we are spiritual beings, we must live and think from the direction of the Spirit. A spirit-directed life. I'm using the book Jesus for the Non-Religious by Bishop Spong, one of my favorite authors. It answers the question if miracles are actually necessary for greatness, or can you have the abundant life without miracles? I think the abundant life comes by faith. The same faith for small things is the faith for the biggest demonstrations of God. Small and great only exists in our consciousness. There is only one element in God consciousness, and that is pure perfection. It is always complete and perfect, and waiting to be revealed from each one of you. Right here and right now. Not when you get it all together, not when your ship comes in. Miracles, by definition, are unexplainable events. They cannot be explained by natural or Newtonian scientific laws. We're not talking about quantum physics this morning. Often attributed to a supernatural being. So are we using our faith for miracles? To defy natural laws and to defy science? Belief is the conviction or feeling of the truth that embodies trust and confidence. Embodying is when someone or something represents an equivalent idea. We are what we embody. It is complete and it is perfect. Faith as a little different from belief. Belief is a conviction and a feeling about a truth or a proposition, but belief may go no further than an intellectual commitment. You know, for example, healthy food and exercise is good for me. I can know this to be true, but I may not embody it. While faith embodies trust and confidence, we believe and do what we believe. The opposite of faith is fear, allowing the condition to control our lives. You can only receive from life exactly what you can accept, no more and no less. It is done unto you by your faith, not just your faith in God, the faith you have in yourself. Now, it takes persistence and it takes faith to believe that it can be done and an expectation that it will happen. Persistence, will, faith, and expectation, or seek, ask, search, and knock, all words of action. I believe Jesus revealed the inward spiritual and guidance and the power of God. And I believe everyone can have the same realization if you use the same stuff. Science means things are repeatable. Whoever uses the formula gets the result. Someone recently asked me, do you always expect things to work out for you? And I answered yes. Not because I'm special, but because I try to live by spiritual law. And it works for everyone. I asked, do you expect to fail? What about you? Do you expect to fail? It's not always easy to expect things to work out for us. But when what we practice, we perfect. If we practice failure, we will manifest failure. I think many of us have been trained by oppression and by being excluded not to expect the good from much of our life. It sounds noble and maybe it sounds humble, but it's not very satisfying. People of faith have a responsibility to encourage others. If we encourage anyone who is down, negative, or hopeless, there should be a change at the end of the conversation. There should be optimism at the end of the conversation. If there isn't, you need help too. We reinterpret facts by spiritual principle. We provide new meaning to the facts of life. Now, I have observed that people who are successful expect to be successful. So what about healing, Rick, if you don't believe in miracles? As a spiritual being, your spirit is not sick. The spiritual principle of healing is better described as health, the way things are supposed to be. See, we have lost our awareness that the good in life is available to all, and that we should expect good from this life. The good in life is natural, it is normal, and it follows spiritual laws. We have made what is natural and normal an unusual event, and then we need a miracle. Health, abundance, happiness, and greatness are all logical outcomes of spiritual wisdom and practice. It is you revealing the God from within. So are we using our faith for miracles? No. We are using our faith to live the abundant life that comes from spiritual laws. Faith to overcome the doubt and unbelief that we have come to see as normal. Shoot for the stars, and if you miss the star, at least you'll hit the moon. A miracle is merely something that we are just not accustomed to, that we're just not accustomed to seeing the experience. Every life-affirming longing and every yearning that we have ever had, every secret desire of our souls, every constructive ambition we have is but a whisper of the Spirit. It reminds us that we are one with it. We are a manifestation or personification of God consciousness. And we are the center of a divine expression. There is one life. That one life is God. That life is perfect. And that life is everyone's life. See, you don't need a miracle worker. You need the awareness of your spiritual identity and your spiritual power. Greatness comes by being the best at being you. Your greatness, your abundance, is all factory installed. It came with you. Jesus' identity with a consciousness of being one with God means we also are the children of God. It's the best description we have to describe something that's really indescribable. Spiritual concepts are not easy to explain. Faith is a natural attitude of a spiritual mind. We miss that this is available to all. Yes, to you, it's the goodness of God. It is good, and if it has happened for anyone, it can also happen for you. We must come to a complete conviction of the presence and the power and the goodness of God in our lives. The power and the activity of God in and through us. And you know what? Everything else can just be added after that. Each of us has a responsibility to demonstrate the good. See, it is easier to blame on God that there was not a miracle than for us to take responsibility. We make it an excuse. But what do you do when you need something and it does not happen? Does God play favorites? Right belief, right church, right pedigree? No, I really don't believe God has favorites. That is what we learn when we take the miracles out of the Jesus story. That God is not a genie in a bottle making magic for us on demand. Everyone has been given all the faith that is needed for you to overcome. If anyone can overcome, you can overcome. Are you fearing greatness? Fear has two meanings. One is forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. This is a quote from Zig Ziglar. He said, but you have the choice. We face life and rise if we choose to manage the fear. There are all multiple views about what about Jesus' teachings. You know, even in the Bible, there are 4 Gospels and Paul's writings, and they often don't agree. Each reports the meaning that they experienced from the story. I am providing one view, and I am not denying that there are others. I am not the only one right. I'm just the only one right most of the time. Jesus was described as human and divine, and I agree with this, and so are each of you. We are the place where God is revealed and met. You know, the song says, I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes, and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Being fully human reveals the divine. And I believe that Jesus reveals what it means to be fully human, to be whole. To be fully human is to have a spirit-led human life. See, it's not all just in the miracles. It's the principles that we learn from Jesus without the miracle stories this morning. Jesus was a breaker of boundaries. Principle 1, Jesus was a breaker of tribal boundaries. There was diversity, of course, among the Jewish people. There were many tribes, but either you were a Jew or a Gentile. Tribal religion always classifies who is in and who is out. And we have the identical problem today. Tribal religion classifies who is in and who is out. And we have this identical problem. Interestingly enough, everybody is right when they're in their tribe. Tribal religion and politics believes that only one tribe is correct. Every other tribe is wrong. And therefore there is this belief that one has the right to oppress other tribes. Even though it was Paul that says that there is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free, there is neither male nor female, for all have been made one in God. Matthew's writing, it's clearly to a Jewish audience. Matthew, the writer, is interpreting Jesus through the story of Moses. But the writer includes in the genealogy the Gentiles. The writer includes a prostitute, Rahab, a woman who committed incest with her father-in-law, Tamar, and a woman who was complicit with the murder of her husband, Bathsheba. Don't miss that the genealogy includes the names of women and the Gentiles. See, I think the message here is everyone is included. Luke, who writes to Gentiles, is interpreting the meaning of Jesus through the lives of Elijah and Elisha. You can almost select and replace the miracles that Elijah and Elisha performed, Jesus performs in the story. And maybe the original audience understood what we just don't understand, that every tribe is included and women are equal to men. The book is very feminist if you read it. Principle 2, Jesus was a breaker of prejudices and stereotypes. The Jews and the Samaritans did not interact. However, in the book of Luke, Jesus only engages with the Samaritans. He uses the Samaritan as a hero in the Good Samaritan story. This is radical. He compared a Samaritan to a Jewish priest and Levite. This is absolutely radical. He taught healing to those who had leprosy. They were called the unclean and the untouchable. But only the Samaritan leper came back with gratitude. In other words, the hated Gentile is the hero. He engaged women, and they are named. Mary and Martha are named in the story. This is radical for Jesus to represent that women were also disciples. This is radical. 2,000 years ago, this was radical, and we're still trying to figure it out. We're still trying to catch up. In John, he talks to the Samaritan woman at the well. Men go to the well to find a wife. This is shocking and radical behavior, but we don't understand because we don't know the story. This is when you clutch your pearls. The original audience understood that it was possible to overcome prejudices and stereotypes. The belittling of others does not bring significance to anyone. It doesn't make you great. Quoting from the book, prejudice is always a public announcement of the inadequacies, the hurts, and the fears of the oppressed. Prejudice is just one more way in which we seek to gain a survival advantage. If we can successfully project onto our victim our inadequacies and place on him or her all the self-hatred we seem to have for ourselves, then we are justified in rejecting our designated victim. This is how emotional argument actually is justified. Rejecting our designated victims actually makes us feel an inflated sense of worth, but it's just empty. You cannot practice prejudice, oppression, and racism and be spiritually whole. We learn the power of human wholeness that ultimately opens, it invites, and it enables human beings to step beyond defense lines and incomplete humanity. Principle 3, Jesus is a breaker of religious boundaries. Religion and politics are always enmeshed. It is a search for emotional support and security. Religious boundaries effectively creates the in-group and the out-group again. And it works. This is how groups are created. And it appears to me that what binds groups together today is what they are against, not what they are for. Now, church and places of faith should be the place where everyone is included. But often, we're the worst examples. Fortunately, we are diverse here. The writers describe Jesus as seeing humanity as a journey from being out and under the control of rules toward the world of wholeness. Jesus called people to step beyond the rules and the defenses and the boundaries and the prejudices, and even religion, to embrace wholeness and the abundant life. The woman with the issue of blood who touched his hem, or the Ethiopian eunuch baptized by Stephen, are all examples of radical inclusion. Powerless people deal with their immobilizing fear in interesting ways. They are always damaging, though. I think Jesus is the one who looked past all limitation and revealed greatness, all that we can be. I think this is what it means to be a follower of the way. God is the life force expanding inside humanity until humanity becomes whole. It's the removal of barriers. We learn greatness from Jesus as breaking through tribal and religious barriers and overcoming prejudice and stereotypes. Now back to Sean. Sean tells the story of how he survived and how he overcame. See, you can overcome if you think how challenged this man was. He said, "Here are my lessons that I learned. I avoided the prison of my own mind." Sean states, don't believe any prediction that doesn't empower you. If you do believe it, you will wither up and die. You will become a zombie, living without choice. He says, everybody is supporting me to win, even those who do not know it. Amen. I am an expert only at being me, and I do it well. Do you and are you the best at being you? Or are you just being good, being someone else? A blueprint that someone else has given you. But Sean says, don't pity me. I have chosen a life of strength. The worst drug is pity and feeling sorry for yourself. It freezes your potential. You are not your condition. He says, I don't think I am disabled. Survival is adapting to the environment and celebrating life and bringing value to the human race. I have chosen to be strong. This is what he says. I was born to rid the world of insecurity. Are you that confident about your participation in life? I was born to rid the world of insecurity, because insecure people do stupid stuff. And when we are insecure, we seek things that damage us. The bottom line is this: everybody wants to be loved and accepted, especially by the person that we see in the mirror. Self-bullying and self-pity is just perpetuating the bad predictions that people have given you. The real prison does not have guards. They are in our minds. Sean was only 3 feet tall, sitting and living in a wheelchair, but he rejected being placed in a prison of bad expectations that others had chosen for him. He became a speaker for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and he met his hero, Tony Robbins. He became an intern for Bill Clinton. He finished college with a degree in political science and counseling. He earned $15,000 to $30,000 per speaking engagement from his wheelchair. He married a woman who cared for him deeply. This is a man who was determined to live an abundant life. Now, I don't know everyone's story here, but I think his story was pretty tough. If he can do it, you can do it. The prison is only the institution that we have created in our own mind. And most of the people that are in prison are waiting to be determined guilty. They haven't even been tried yet. What a lesson for us. What a metaphor for us to understand that until we decide and we judge ourselves to be free, to get out of the prison that we have created and that we have the keys for, we are sitting there waiting for something to happen. You don't need a miracle. You need a prison break. You need to break out of jail. My beloved, God's Hesed, it's time for a prison break. Say prison break. I love when the church talks to me. See, you can do what Jesus did. You can break down tribal and religious boundaries. You can overcome stereotypes and prejudice. Jesus was great without the miracle stories. And I think this is more important than the miracle stories anyway. Sean overcame his barriers and refused to be pitied. Brittle bone disease, in a wheelchair, and required others to care for him. He overcame every barrier of oppression and prejudice and stereotype. By his 30s, he was known internationally. He had written 2 books, How You Can Succeed, and the second one, Get Off Your Butt, B-U-T. In other words, what is your excuse for being successful? It's all about self-sabotage. Get off your butt. It's about taking responsibility. So what is holding you back? Are you in a prison of your own making? You have the key to the prison. Sean says, be great is just by being you, being the best you that you can be. So does limitation prevent greatness? I would say no. Can everyone have an abundant life? I say yes. Can you have an abundant life? Do you believe that you can have an abundant life? Okay. You must believe yes. You must embody yes. Salvation is empowerment to step into a new consciousness that transcends insecurity and inadequacy. You don't need a miracle. You need a prison break. You need to experience life as it should be, healthy, wholeness, and abundance, breaking down barriers and the obstacles that are in the way of life. We are designated to proclaim this to everyone. We are spiritual beings living in a spiritual universe, having a human experience. Make your spiritual life meaningful. We achieve greatness when we understand our identity as being a spiritual being, and when we operate by spiritual laws of the universe. Being great is being fully human. Can you live the abundant life? I hope you say yes, that I will. Be great, be abundant, be whole, be all that you were born to be. Don't fear greatness. Face everything and rise. Let it be so, and so it is. So it is. Be all that you can be. Let us pray. We are the place where God lives, moves and breathes, and has its being. We are the place where God shows up. And to this I just say yes. Let it be so, and let it be. And so it is. Amen.